makes a man and you have no man on the podcast?
No man on the podcast.
No man on the podcast.
We just got two boys.
Two boys.
Trying to be a man.
Trying to live our boyhood we never had.
Yeah, that's what all them animals are doing out there. They're the boyhood I never had. Goats and a lamb and pigs, chickens, ducks, 17 acres. That
You
creek.
ain't killed that lamb yet?
No, Delilah gets to live. She'll get bred though, and them
It sounds
babies
like-
will make some beautiful lamb chops.
Well, it really sounds like your family has caused you not to kill Delilah.
My family has caused me not to kill a lot of food. Yeah.
Maybe people too. I don't know.
No, because there's been a few people with too much mouth that have probably been closer to disappearing at times than they would have if I wasn't married. So, because if I wasn't married, I probably would have let more slide in life than I do now. Because Will Smith.
Well, so does manhood change with marriage?
Oh, definitely. All right, so let's get into the meat of things. Welcome back to the Millstone. This is my good friend,
Ant
fellow
Bird.
church member, brother in Christ, Ant Bird, J Bird, Bird.
All
I
the
think
above.
he's been called every shade of bird, blue bird, red bird,
Yellow
yellow
bird,
bird.
big bird,
So, Birdie Bird.
everything but my name.
I have no nickname. My name is Ben.
That is your name.
Everybody calls me Ben. I used to be called Fuller even before I joined the military by some family members, but like
So you didn't even have a nickname in the military?
No.
Not
No.
even a non-PG-13?
just Fuller. Now I had a few Puerto Rican friends who called me Ghost, but that's just because I could walk
Modern
up.
Warfare 2?
No,
Oh.
because they would be huddled around talking, and I would pop in and talk, and then
disappear.
just disappear. And they would never notice when I came and when I went, except for when I would speak. And then they'd be like, "Where'd you come from?"
And where'd you go?
And then
Where'd you come from?
next
Cotton
time I
Eye?
seen them, they'd be like, "Dude, you just left."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I'm socially awkward. I show up, I inject myself into a conversation, and then I fade back out of that conversation because I feel like I'm running off at the mouth too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you sound like an idiot.
Let's leave.
Let's leave." You know, you made that awkward joke and nobody laughed. You probably need to go now." So,
That's every conversation I have.
Yep.
It's time for me to leave.
that's most of my conversations. I'm just socially awkward. I was raised up around grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. And you can talk to family a whole lot different than you can talk to random strangers.
Oh, yeah.
Your family has to forgive you a little more for being weird.
Right.
Your common stranger does not. So as y'all know, the Millstone focuses on manhood, integrity, the character of a man, self-discipline, selflessness. So, brought my buddy Bird on here. He's dedicated his life to living
Being a
for
man.
Christ
Oh.
and being a man. Well, you can't live for Christ as a man and not have a desire to be a man.
A man. Yeah.
Like,
Trapped in a woman's, trapped in a man's body.
yeah, we don't believe in none of that. None of that. So, how long you been
A man?
living for Jesus?
Oh. Really only past couple of years.
Yeah.
But I've been in the church for most of my life.
Yeah.
So shows you how long I didn't take it seriously.
Well, I think one of the big things for a lot of young men, even myself as a teenager, I was in church on my own accord a lot as a teenager because it was easier.
I was not.
It was easy for me to find it. I wasn't living my life like someone who was in the church, but it was easy to feel a little more
Love.
like you belong
Oh,
and a little
yeah.
more loved.
Right.
And everyone, even the hardest man, wants to feel loved. Now he may not be so open about it. He may be closed off to it, but I've seen some men, bikers, giant beards, long hair, tattoos, and when you really get to know them,
Inmates.
they're just teddy bears. Like they're not as gruff as they seem. They just are closed off to a certain level of openness when it comes to love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't serious for a long time, and then once I felt like I started kind of feeling the Holy Spirit and everything, I ran from that, got married young, joined the military, and ruined a relationship with alcohol and PTSD and infidelity and
But isn't that what makes a man in today's society?
in
Alcohol
today's society, alcohol and sex.
That's it.
Yep.
That's manhood.
You take the red,
Podcast over.
you take the red pill and you sleep with as many women as you can, and which the thing is though, that's actually not even a Republican or conservative mindset to sleep around.
No, that's a societal.
But that's literally a liberal mindset when it comes to, well, you should have the freedom to do as you please. The sexual freedom. It's your body. If you want to come together and have relations, then it's your prerogative. When really, if you think about a traditional, true, what should be considered red pill would be get married young, have kids, have one wife,
Are you attacking me?
be with one woman, because that's always been my dream, was to marry young, have lots of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I failed the first marriage, and I hate that. There's no part of me that's just like, oh, I'm super happy that I'm divorced and remarried. I love my wife.
There's not really, honestly, a whole lot of men who get married with the idea of, oh, well, in a couple of years I'm going to be divorced.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no reason to even get in a relationship if you think like that.
Yep. And so, part of the world's problem is you have a lot of people who want a lot of the red pill society stuff, but it's not really a red pill. It's still a blue pill, just shaded in red, because they
With
literally,
Republican views.
yeah, they're literally like, well, I like these aspects of the conservative mindset. I like the idea of the freedom of speech and the right to bear arms, and to, I like capitalism, and I like a constitutional republic. I don't really want to get married because I don't trust women, and I don't trust men, and I don't trust society. So I just want to be able to have my pleasure.
Even I don't trust myself.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, there was a time where I definitely didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
I was married, and my eyes wandered. I mean, and now I look at my wife, and we've been married for almost 4 years. I don't think about other women, and that's what kills me with these guys, that, well, I just can't see myself as one woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you have the self-discipline to...
Yeah, well, they can become Mormon.
Yeah. They have the self-discipline to work out. They have the self-discipline to work a high-profile job, sometimes extremely physically demanding when they first started out. They may be up to a level now where they're, they walk up onto a job site, they look around, everybody's doing their job, and they're like, hey, y'all keep it up. And then they go discuss with whoever's higher them on what stage of the plans they're on, but they don't have the self-discipline to marry a woman, have children, raise them children together. Instead, they got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women, and it's like,
yeah. But then look at everything that's driving their discipline at that point is to have the status to be able to get 4, 5, 6, 7 women.
They
within
want the
2
finances.
weeks.
They want the next pretty thing, And I think that's
The
where
job title.
men should not be material. We should not be materialistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to be
Speak
known.
for yourself. I want a mansion.
Yeah. I want to be known
Lord.
for my character. I want to be known the fact that, well, Ben carries himself with integrity. Ben is selfless. I called him. He needed, I needed help, and he hopped in his truck, came over, and I didn't have to call that plumber and spend $350 because some people $350 is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But some people, you tell them, hey, plumber's going to charge you $350, $600, $700.
Just cannot look at
And
it.
now they go, well, I guess I'm not paying my truck payment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm not paying the power bill. I guess I can only afford half of my rent.
We're letting bills roll over at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have rent, you shouldn't be paying a plumber to do anything because your landlord should. But, and
I need to start renting.
society identifies a man with different levels of achievement,
Different standards.
different standards and statuses. They say, well, my 15-year-old boy, he's dating a young girl. She's pretty. Found out they had sex for the first time. He's a man now.
Mm-hmm.
My boy's a man. What's he responsible for?
Nothing.
What kind of integrity is he walking with? He's 15 years old, he ain't grown, and he just slept with a girl for the first time. Where's that going to get him? He probably didn't use protection.
Right.
So now he's going to have a young girl pregnant, and now what's the world going to tell them? Oh, well, it's all right. She doesn't have to keep it.
Mm-hmm. Or even if she does keep it, oh, sorry, you can just not be part of their life.
Well, don't worry about it. You just sign your rights away. You don't have to deal with it. And sex doesn't make you a man. A job doesn't make you a man.
Mm-mm.
If your character isn't what makes you a man, you're just a boy with responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a boy walking around in a man's body, talking with a man's voice, and walking aimlessly into the night. Like, you just got married.
Yeah, I did. Congratulations to me.
Yeah. How old are y'all?
I'm 27.
And she's how old? Young.
Yeah. Younger than I am.
She's in her 20s.
Yeah.
She's old enough to drink, right?
Yeah.
So she's old. She's an old lady.
She's old enough to be a man.
Yep.
In today's standards.
She's a whole grown man. But y'all got married young. It's 27 young. I'm 35. 35 is still young. I just look
Yeah,
old.
but sometimes 27 ain't. It don't feel young
Yeah.
when you ain't got kids yet.
Well, and you also, being human, we are not infinite.
No.
We have very finite lives. And
Right.
so,
but not only to years, but you also understand that there's, never the next day.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's never promised.
So
Yep.
you could be as young as. This is why I like to live my life as if I'm going through a midlife crisis, because I don't know when my midlife is.
Just go ahead and
Right. I could 30 might be my end of my life. So 15 was my midlife crisis.
Mom, she
Yeah.
was young. She was in her 50s.
Absolutely.
She's not an old lady. She's in her 50s.
That to some people is a midlife.
I haven't really put it out there on YouTube, but I did mention on the Millstones TikTok.
Or Facebook too.
9 months ago,
Mhm.
my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and it had spread to her liver, her spine, some of her ribs, and all of her pelvic lymph nodes, and it was a guaranteed, hey, if you don't get a miracle, we're going to treat you, but it's not reversible. And so we had 8 months. We made the best out of the first 6 and then she spent a few weeks in the hospital, and then she came home for about 2 weeks.
Well, I think even beyond that, because like I've been highly somehow tangled into your family's
Yep.
lives somehow.
Yep.
And even before the diagnosis, like there was all the camping trips and all that. So,
Yep.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess
We
the Lord is answering prayers before they're prayed.
Yep. We spent a lot of time camping.
I stole that one from Ian.
Yeah.
You know, answering prayers before they're prayed. So.
Yep. I'll tell you, and my brother did a very tough thing as a man, and he preached his mom's funeral.
He was just being a jerk.
Yep. And then he made me do the benediction, and he didn't ask me until the day before. So if you've never prayed over a loved one's funeral,
it's easy.
It's easy.
When you're not doing it.
It's easy. It took a lot, but, and I try not to be prideful in it, but when Mom was first come to us, gave us the news that she was diagnosed, I'm looking around, and of course, you know, inside of me, there's turmoil, there's chaos trying to break out, there's all this stuff that wants to just start breaking inside of me. Like, and my mom just told me she's guaranteed going to die. Okay, well, she's human. She's guaranteed she's going to die. Period. You know, I just now most likely have less time. And I look around, my sister's there, and I can tell, you know, this is nothing against my siblings, but I could tell my sister's just barely holding it together. I could tell my brother is just barely, well, actually, I can, like, I'm not going to lie, he was not holding it together. And if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm not talking bad about you. I love you.
I will. I'll talk about
it. You know, and my pops, I could tell, like, he's messed up. You know, every time she takes a step, he was glued to her. And so my mom's comforting my sister. She's comforting my brother, and she's trying to comfort Pops, because this is her husband. You know, this man said I do. He said his vows till death do us part. And when you say that, you picture The Notebook. You know, like, you know, you climb in bed one night with each other, and you both fade off into the night, and you don't miss her, and she doesn't miss you, and you just go on about your day. And
it's a lot more romantic than Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, right. And so my mom comes up to me, and I've decided, well, I've got to hold this together. My sister's not doing good holding it together. My brother's not holding it together. I'll be the sibling. I'll be the child that holds it together. And so she comes up to me and asks me how I'm going. How am I doing? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. And she's like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And obviously she's not telling me I'm going to live. I'm going to make it. She's just telling me, like, we're human. It is what it is. We live in a corrupt world. You know, there's no getting out of death for any of us. Eventually, it's coming. It's always knocking. And she said, we're just going to pray. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to pray over you, and I'm going to pray over you now. And I got to take her head in my hands and lay my head on her head, and I got to pray over her. And I did. I sobbed. I cried. I sobbed like a child who just found out his mom was dying. But I got to be the first child to pray over her when she was sick. And it took a lot not to allow those emotions to just run wild. Even in the midst of praying over her and allowing myself to tap into those emotions, because emotions can be very good, And I believe part of being created in the image of Christ and in the image of God is God has emotions. When you read through the Old Testament, especially, you see God's emotions. The difference is his emotions are pure and holy, and ours are not, because we live in a world that is corrupted by sin, and so our emotions can just run amok and take control of our entire day, our week, our lives. There's some folks that never have control of their emotions. And a man who doesn't have control of his emotions is
not a man.
Typically verbally, emotionally, or physically abusive in some form or fashion.
Or even sexually, sadly.
Or sexually, yeah. And so men, I think especially men, need to know how to manage emotions. Not bottle them up to where you just don't feel it, because eventually you're going to feel it. And bottling it up, and bottling it up is a surefire way to make sure that eventually you handle it the wrong way. You know, it's one thing
to bottle it up for a night.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I come home from the experience of being informed about Mom. I talk to Krista, my wife. I tell her. She asks if I'm okay. I'm good. I'm okay. And I go back to work on the farm because there was things that have to be done. And so at that time, I took those emotions and I closed myself off to them. And I went out there and got back into the routine of do the thing to get it done and feel those emotions later. And I won't lie. That night, I got in the shower and I let it go.
Is it either the shower or the long ride to work?
Well, can't nobody tell you're crying if you silently cry in the shower. You know? And so, but it's not that closing yourself off to those emotions is wrong, because there's times where you don't have time to feel emotion. And right now is not the time. I can't do it right now because this task needs to be done. Well, like war. You're in the middle of a battle and your buddy just got shot in the face and he's dead. You've been training with this dude for years. Y'all been in battle after battle together, and you don't get to stop and feel the emotion. And luckily, and I know a lot of people probably won't agree, but luckily you have a lot of adrenaline in these scenarios that's helping fuel you not feel those emotions. Now, you're going to crash later. You know, like you're going to crash later. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about PTSD and stuff, and why so many soldiers take their lives is that's such a hard crash. Because there's not many civilians out there that can trust someone as much as another soldier will trust a soldier when it comes time to put their life on the line for one another. And so the guilt of surviving and the guilt of not taking their place and all these other things and some of the atrocities that you see in war weighs so heavy on these veterans' minds that even the ones that never speak up about it, they look good. They look happy. They seem they're outgoing, and a lot of times it's the most outgoing ones
that are the most depressed.
They're the most depressed, and you get that phone call, and you're like, "What in the world happened? What do you mean?" You know, and it's part of the reason why is they've taken those emotions and they've bottled them up, and they've never processed them. They never took the time to. And I'm not big on mental health. I'm really not. There's a lot of people who disagree with me on that, and I don't disagree with therapy. I don't disagree with psychology and psychiatrists. I don't disagree with any of the therapists. I'm just not big on mental health when it comes to those things, because if you're not careful, you get some of these very liberal-minded therapists.
Or even new agey.
and new agey, and the ways that they teach you to manage your emotions is ineffectual, and a lot of times it causes more chaos in these people's lives. So I know a lady whose kids were going to therapy, and one of her kids was just getting worse. And he started lashing out at his sisters. He started lashing out at his mama, and she was like, "I don't know what to do." And I was like, "Well, when did he start doing this?" And she's like, He started going to therapy, and it's been just getting worse since he went to therapy." And I was like, "Then pull him out." And she's like, "But he needs to go to therapy because of da 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 da." And I'm not, of course, able to tell that part of the story because it's not my business. She pulled him out, and literally within 2 weeks, it was gone. He quit lashing out. He's still emotional, but he's a little boy. He's been through trauma, and I was like, you just need to remind him who he is, who you are, and your love for him, and explain to him that, hey, we have emotions.
Yeah. What do you think it was about the therapy that might have made him lash out?
I'm not sure if the therapy was just focusing too much on whatever it was, and just forcing him to talk about it. And I'm not forced, but or just continuing to bring it up.
Well, things to a kid may not seem forced, or it's not forced, but to a kid, they don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
Necessarily. To certain situations.
Yeah. I gotta take a break.
Pee-pee break?
No.
Oh. It's something pee-peeing? Bye-bye, dog.
But but the thing is, if you're not building your life as a man, if you're not building a foundation that is firm and that deals with emotion, then you're going to raise kids in chaos. And you're going to raise a family, including your wife, because even if you have a sound emotional wife and you're not, eventually the effects of your inability to control emotion and to deal with it when it's appropriate, because there is definitely times to deal with emotion. But if you can't manage your own emotions, eventually that is going to spill over into her lap, and then she's going to be trying to manage your emotions. And when she's managing your emotions, she's no longer managing her emotions. She's no longer helping manage the children's emotions. And now you have a whole household of just chaos. And so now you're coming home unable to control your emotions. She's not controlling her emotions. The children already don't have control of their emotions because they're children.
Right.
And so nobody's benefiting in this whole relationship, in this whole dynamic that's supposed to be a family, that's supposed to teach love and compassion and patience and long suffering. And now you have produced a generation of children, which is what I feel is one of our largest issues, is we have a generation that has come up, and I don't label them as millennials and Gen X and all this stuff because I don't have time, or do I care about the age dynamics, because I know 57-year-old men that can't manage their emotions.
So would you call them the fatherless generation?
A lot of them are the fatherless generation, even though some of them had fathers in the home, they haven't been active for a long time. Even in the church, you look at the church, for a long time, fathers have not been active in the church or in the household. And so they've went to work, they've provided financially, and the moment they got home, their job ended. Well, even without that.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me watch this Price is Right. Let me watch MASH. Let me watch Star Trek. Let me watch all
just
this.
sit down for a minute.
And let me just sit down for a minute. Do you know what my routine is when I first get home?
The Price is Right.
I get home, I get lunchbox, computer bag, cup, bring it in the house, empty lunchbox into the sink. I don't wash it. Put the lunchbox up, kiss wife, kiss kids, and I go feed the farm. And then I usually come inside. Dinner's already cooking, if it's not already done. I help finish up dinner. If trash is needed to take out, I take the trash out. I help wash dishes, occasionally fold clothes, or swap out a load of clothes. I've not finished a load of clothes, though, in the 4 years that we have been together. But I help with them, and not help in the sense of I can't believe I gotta help you, but help in the sense of we do life together. And so most of the time,
same things you would do if you were single.
Yeah, most of the time, if she's up, I'm up. Now, every once in a while, I will come in here. I sit down. I play with the kids, roughhouse with them a little bit because I've been at work all day. But roughhousing with kids isn't rest.
No.
And I don't truly sit down to do nothing until I've gotten a shower, the kids are in bed, and I'm now sitting in bed. And that's how every day goes. I wake up 5:15 to 5:35, somewhere between there. Dog out, dog in, dog fed, dog out. Coffee made, dressed, go to work, go to lunch and go to the gym, go back to work, come home and work. And even all of these things in the house, they're still work.
I've got it easy.
Like,
I have no goats.
Yeah, no goats, no
or
chickens,
kids.
no pigs, no kids. One Brutus, one dog.
That is enough.
Yeah.
That is a full farm right there.
Yeah. But
have we got into the meat and potatoes yet?
some of it.
Oh.
Some of it. We're in no hurry. Some of this is not really meant for discussion. Some of it was just thoughts that I've had. Sometimes I think I'm a better writer than speaker. But
I'm neither.
Well, I'm just an uneducated redneck from Alabama. So, there's that.
I went to Valley High, so no.
I dropped out of school and didn't go to college and joined the military and...
Well, I think a lot of this stuff, you first you got to separate a lot of this stuff to manliness.
Yeah.
And then a godly man.
Yeah.
Because I do believe you can have very great men in this world that aren't godly or even religious.
Well, so like...
If some people want to talk about us being religious. I
Take...
don't know how some people feel about that in the Christian worldview.
Well...
Mine's not a religion.
The thing is, it is a religion.
Oh, yeah.
By definition, it's a religion. I understand their meaning behind it's not a religion, it's a relationship. I understand what they're saying, but a lot of times it just sounds snarky. Not corny, but snarky.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, you know, and...
It's got to be defined by something.
It's one thing when it's like Christian talking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't view it as a religion as much as I view it as a relationship, because that's the reason why Christ died. That's the reason why Christ was resurrected, was not just to wipe you clean of your sins, but it was supposed to put you back in relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were built by God, we were made by God, created to be in relationship with Him. And then Adam and Eve fell, they sinned, which cursed us, and that curse goes on through the line. All the way till the end of the world, except for those who have declared Christ as King, surrendered their life, repented, baptized, and striving to walk in holiness. I do not believe that you will ever just attain holiness until you're out of your flesh. There are some people who do believe you can. I believe you can attain
Heaven on earth.
A sense of holiness where you don't intentionally sin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing for me to intentionally run around
Which is
dropping the
two big
F-bomb,
different things. Yeah.
or to be run around lusting over someone else's wife. You know, but it's a completely different thing for me to walk through my house, stub my toe, and drop the D word.
Mhm.
You know, like, those things aren't the same. You know,
Right.
intentionally doing things versus reactionary doing things are not the same. I do think you should get to a point where you don't
Where your reaction
always
is
react.
right.
You know, but even so, you went from saying
Leftovers again.
yeah, like, you know, you went from stubbing your toe and saying the D word to diddly do. Well, you still said it in place of it, so it's like, you know,
The
like,
intent was the same.
the intent was the same, and I don't get into the whole concept of Christian cuss words and all that stuff, because
That's culture based.
yeah, and that's my thing.
That's a whole nother
it's
cup of tea.
You go to Ireland and we would be sitting here drinking a pint and talking about Jesus and like, you know, can I go
with the occasional D word? That's
those Irish men who are over there, those Irish preachers, they're not Christians. They drink beer while they talk about God, and it's like, he's not a drunkard, like, you know. And so even some of being a man socially is all based off of where you're from.
Oh, culture.
You know, there's some, of course, that cultural divide blends as to where a man is supposed to be a provider. You look at almost any tribal people ever in history, 99% of them, the men provided. They hunted, they gathered, they brought all that stuff back, they fed the women and children and the elders, and then the next day, where did they go?
Right back out.
Spears and arrows and ropes and whatever it was they used to hunt with, they were back on their feet all over again, and the women were at home, babies tied to them, and they weren't just sitting around all day. You know, they lived a lifestyle where everyone had to work.
Yeah, even the 8-year-olds.
Yeah. So,
the 2 and 3-year-olds also could help with the infants.
yeah, everyone had a responsibility that if you could walk, you were being trained up to have a responsibility. There was no such thing as, well, let them have a childhood. We childhood our kids to death in America. That's why you got 35-year-olds sitting on their mama's couch with no prospects of ever doing anything with their life. And I'm a big believer. My children, especially because I have girls probably, that's probably a little biased, can live in my house until the day they're wed. But they're not just going to have a free ride.
What about the husband? The husband can't stay till he's wed? No.
Nope. But
Poor
if
fella.
my oldest one decides, well, you know, I want to live on the farm and I want to help work the farm, I want to help provide, you know, and she's 25, 26, 27, she's still living at home, she's providing, she's not out being insane at night, coming home at all hours of the night. Families didn't used to, oh, you're 18, get out.
Right.
You know,
Well, what if the son was providing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Until he's wed?
Yeah. Now,
or would you just kick him out in the shed somewhere on the property?
Of course, it depends. Now, if he's sitting around playing video games all day, he's not providing anything, then yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go.
So there's no chance of me moving in and playing video games?
No, you're already wed.
That don't matter.
And Mrs. Bird was not my daughter, so.
Why was what would I have been your nephew since I was taken in as a grandchild?
Yeah, if you were taken in as a grandchild, you would essentially be a nephew.
Wouldn't even let me move in.
Nope. I wouldn't take none of my nephews now. They're all reasonably good boys.
You wouldn't take none of them.
I wouldn't take none of them. He's got to keep. He sends one of them boys over here to me. Get on back to your old daddy.
So what all would you say defines a man without being a Christian?
Okay. So without being a Christian, you still have
providing, obviously.
You still have character. And that character should be a character of integrity. And not just integrity in the sense of, well, I do the right thing when nobody's looking. But what about having integrity when I actually messed up? You know, I smashed a screen of a laptop one time at work. Probably 2 months into being there. I was working on a laptop, had a pen sitting there, same color as the laptop, didn't realize it. Got done, pulled my card out.
So, how hard do you slam it?
Not hard.
Oh,
I just
I didn't know if he was
firm.
like mad. Or...
Nope, just firm, because it was one of those that still had the clasp. So when you closed it, it was supposed to latch, and so you had to close them sometimes a little firm. But I didn't like slam it. I just literally just
do it.
And I was like, and in that moment, I could have pulled the pen out. I could have stuck it on the bottom of the shelf. And when somebody come back to get it, I could be like, man, I don't know what happened.
Who broke my laptop?
But integrity dictates not just that I do the right thing when nobody's looking, but that when I mess up, when I've done something wrong, I confess it. And I think that's part of the Bible talks about confessing. It doesn't just say confess to the Lord. It says confess unto one another. And I don't view that in the sense of the Catholics where they go confess to a priest, but like to me and you. Hey, bro, I've been struggling with such and such. I need prayer, a little bit of wisdom, blah, blah, blah. And I come to you about it, and you come back, and you say, okay, well, let's pray about this. Let's talk about it. What's the Bible say?
Say none, however many Hail Marys.
Yeah. Like, and so integrity to me is number one, because integrity will feed the rest. Self-discipline. America has a pandemic of type 2 diabetics. Type 2 diabetes is all about self-discipline.
Yeah.
You literally
I love sugar.
poisoning your... Yeah, well, I mean,
love it.
And sugar is not a problem.
It is in the amount I consume it.
And you are very blessed that you have a metabolism that manages the amount of sugar you intake and the amount of carbs you intake.
I think that's genetics too.
Oh yeah, genetics. It is insane.
So I took an ancestry, and I'm like 55% Scottish.
Yeah, which means you probably ate a ton of potatoes like the Irish did.
So their ability to consume sugar and alcohol and starch.
Yep.
Man, I'm took that and I ran with it.
Yep.
Without the alcohol. Potatoes and sugar.
But so integrity and
Sugar on
self-discipline.
potatoes?
No. Because potatoes are literally sugar. They just turn into sugar. So integrity feeds self-discipline. Because I know I am a husband and a father. If I am unhealthy, if I am sick and overweight, I do not effectively provide for my family. I may financially provide for my family with no problem. But when someone kicks the door in because, oh, he's paranoid, it happens all the time. Any time of the week, you can look up a story on some news channel somewhere of some burglar kicking in a door and killing somebody.
Right.
Am I able to get up and defend my family? Well, if I am not self-disciplined, I don't do at least some modicum of taking care of my body, physically, mentally, and know, well, how do you defend your family? Do you know how to fight? To some degree. I'm not saying you need to go take jiu-jitsu 3, 4, 5 nights a week.
I've got it under control
Like-
theoretically.
Do you know how to handle a firearm? Do you know how to fire that firearm effectively in a stressful situation? Now, me, I'm blessed. I've been yelled at and screamed at and kicked at, and I've actually been shot at and had the opportunity to return fire in these scenarios. And even in the sense of just the training, they're intentionally stressing you out
Right.
while you're shooting.
Well, I have YouTube videos.
Well, I mean,
That has helped me.
I still watch YouTube videos all the time on shooting and
Yeah, but I'm top notch, man.
How
Like, the
to-
amount of
how
YouTube
to
videos,
train.
like I'm probably better than you.
you might be. You never know. You know, I carry a Taurus, so you know I'm already one down on you
You are.
because I'm cheap. Cheap. So
Yeah, well, YouTube told me what to buy.
so it is what it is. We'll have to build a range down here though one day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I really definitely don't want the first time I clear a room is actually clearing a room.
yeah, that'd be bad. So then you go from integrity and self-discipline to selflessness. Well, even if a man is not a husband and a father, and he's not a Christian, that selflessness should still come into play.
Mhm.
Because I've passed, 75, 85-year-old lady on the side of the road that is broke down. And it's 95 to 100 degrees outside. She may be in decent health for her age, but comparatively, I should be in a whole lot better health than her.
Mhm.
And if I have the opportunity to stop and help her, I should be able to. On my way to work one day.
Is this the story of the deer?
Yeah, it's 6 a.m., 6:30, somewhere between there. I come around the curve and there is this gentleman in the middle of the road. His car's in the middle of the road and it is filthy. And he's trying to get it to crank. It will not start. And I pull over. Everyone's just flying past him. They're just swerving around him and going on. I pull over, back up. I come up to him. I'm like, hey man, you good? Like, what can I do? He's like, I can't get it to start. I was like, all right, well, let's get it off the road. And about that time, I realized that when he hit this deer, its bowels exploded down the side of it, and it is covered in deer feces.
It's not funny to the guy, but it's funny.
And and his window is down,
Yeah.
so it's all over him. It's all over his car. It's on the inside of his car, and I'm like, all right, well, your car's in the middle of the road. It's got to be moved. And so I just take a deep breath. I suck it up, and I help him. I push while he steers, and I'm like, you got somebody coming? My phone's dead. I work third shift out here at like Knopf or something, and I'm like, okay, well, where were you headed? Well, I live in Columbus on this side, blah blah blah. Well, I work on base, so I'm like, well, I work in Columbus. Hop in the truck, I give you a ride. He's got deer feces on him. I don't have a towel. I don't have a blanket. Like
Just sit in the seat.
but it's a truck. It's a farm truck. I use it for everything. It has
Is it leather
animals in it.
seats?
It's not leather seats. And so he hops in, and I pull down to the gas station. I get him a biscuit. I get me a biscuit. We eat breakfast on the way, and I was like, "Hey man, you messed up. The wrong one stopped. Yeah. The wrong one stopped to talk to you, because I'm gonna talk to you the whole way. I ain't gonna shut up." And so we talked, and just for clarification, he's a black guy. I'm a white guy.
Mhm.
And in a day and age where
Which shouldn't matter. But
which
apparently
shouldn't
it
matter,
does.
but in a day and age where we are heavily back to looking at race, like and none of this, I'm not bragging about any of this because I don't think I went above and beyond. especially as a Christian. I think I did my job. And which is no different than a lot of the medals I got in the military. I didn't deserve those medals. I did my job. I raised my right hand, which was barely different than a hiring process. You know, I was hired by the United States government when I signed that dotted line, essentially, to protect, to preserve, and to possibly lay down my life. And so a lot of the awards I got, I don't brag about them. I don't think I earned them. I went, I did my job, I came home. In this same instance, I don't deserve any accolades from Jesus Christ because I picked this man up off the side of the road with his feces covered car. But
his feces covered stuff.
But it was selfless in the sense of this car stunk. I had to touch his car with my bare hands. I had nothing. I got feces on my pants from pushing his car, and I work at a very, office job. I do IT work. I sit behind a desk. I'm in khakis and a decent shirt. And Not today. So, and I'm going to be late.
Yeah.
In some jobs, like being late is
critical
issue for them. Especially like if you work in manufacturing, being late. Oh, you're half a minute late,
and I'm fired.
Yeah,
and those could be 1 minute late. I could be late a total of 8 minutes, and I'm fired.
Yeah, it's just So we're
a slave to the corporation.
But it was selflessness. It's an example of selflessness. Because then, hey, I called my boss. I let him know, hey, I am going to be late. This is what happened. This is what I did. I am stopping at Walmart, and I am buying me a new pair of pants.
Didn't even wash them yet.
And I'll be at work. Pants. And so I literally had to go buy a brand new pair of pants, go to work, come in the office in front of half of my team with just feces up my leg and go to work. And I went in, I come in, and they're looking at me like, oh my gosh, man, what is that? And I'm like, I got new pants in this bag. I'm going to go change. And I go change, and I go fold them pants up, and I put them in the truck.
You don't have showers at your work.
We don't have showers at my work. And so I scrubbed my arms like a surgeon from elbow down, and then I changed pants, put my new ones on, and they, of course, don't feel as good as a nice washed, broken-in pair of pants. But
well, not even broken in, but just washed.
Just washed and dried with some fabric softener, and never met him again, of course. A guy I'll never see again.
Maybe you will. Maybe he'll show up to church.
We're not obviously best friends. And I told him where I went to church. I told him, I was a Christian. I asked him about God, and we talked a lot about God. And he talked about he's not married, but he wanted to marry his baby mama. And I didn't go into anything about, I can't believe you got a baby mama. I'm divorced and remarried. I have 2 kids.
So who are you to?
Who am I to judge? I'm trying.
Right.
I'm genuinely putting forth the effort. But at this time, that might be his effort. That might be all he has. And so we just talked. And we talked about Jesus. And when he got ready to get out of my truck, I was like, hey, man, I want you to know, I'm glad I met you. And if I never see you again, I love you. And that was it. And at this time, I've literally never seen this guy again.
Did this man say I love you back?
He did. He did.
Most men.
As a matter of fact, I got out of the truck and he gave me a hug. Before
feces
he went
covered.
In. Yeah,
feces.
It is what
hug.
it is.
He gave you a dookie hug.
Yeah.
You never met him again.
And then
I think that's rude.
I think courage. Is another big aspect.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, it took courage in a society that, and I don't think the majority of our society is focused on race. I think it is a very large minority, but a lot of times the media is shoving it down their throat. So it took courage, one, in a day and age where anything can happen. You know, it is more prevalent today that you stop to help somebody out and you get screwed over.
That's why I lean more towards individualist because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm going to treat you the way you treat me
Yeah.
to a degree. I mean, obviously, just because you treat me like trash doesn't justify me treating you like trash.
If my wife and kids had been in the car, I probably would not have given him a ride. I would have helped him to the side of the road. I would have helped try to get his car running because I tried to help see what was wrong with his car, and I think he knocked his fuel pump loose. It would turn over, but it either wasn't getting fire or it wasn't getting fuel because it would just wah 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 wah, and the battery wasn't even close to being dead because it would just run. Yeah. It would just turn over like.
Get on the back of the truck.
It was begging, you know, and I would have gave him my phone. I would have
made sure he got in touch with somebody. To a gas station?
We were literally less than 2 minutes from the gas station. We were less than a 2 minute walk.
It would have been fine for getting on the back of the truck and to the gas station.
And so I could have got.
Would you have been riding to the back of the truck with your families? Because you're covered in feces on your leg.
No. My wife hates driving, so I would have still had to drive.
Is that a not to get sexist? Is that a woman thing?
I think most of the time. If they have somebody, most women I know, if they have somebody that'll drive,
here's the keys.
They're like, yeah. But so I think courage is another characteristic that should be part of the foundation of a man. Because when it comes to integrity and self-discipline and it comes to being selfless, it also takes courage to do those things. It took courage for me to go within my 90-day probationary period at work to walk up to my boss and go, I broke this computer. Knowing that in the state of Georgia, he has to have no reason to fire me. He can just look at me and go,
bye.
Go ahead and pack up anything that's yours. Like, because you've now cost us money. And instead, he looked at it. He was like, you did that? I was like, yep. He said, who's it belong to? And I looked up. It was one of our organization's computers. So it wasn't that big of a deal. It was under warranty. And being a government laptop, our warranty was a little better. So even though I broke it, they still covered it.
So you're saying you broke the right laptop?
I broke the right laptop in breaking a laptop, yes. I did the wrong thing to the right object.
Right.
And then if a man lacks courage, if a man is a coward, and there's different levels of cowardice, I believe. But if a man is a coward, when that man comes and kicks in your front door, you're going to be incapable of taking the next step that's required. Like, okay, you pulled your weapon.
Well, even the man kicking in the door has a form of cowardice, right?
Yeah, because he lacks integrity. He doesn't have the courage and the integrity to go provide the right way. But if you, as the man who is trying to be a man of integrity, a man of sound character, if you lack those foundations, if you lack courage, when you pulled your pistol on him and he's shouting obscenities at you and he's now threatened your wife and children, are you capable of doing what you may have to do? And a man who lacks courage will not be able to do it. But then, also, there may be the exact opposite. You may have a man that lacks the courage to actually judge the situation. And he may prematurely pull the trigger on someone who didn't even need to be.
Right.
You know.
Well, yeah,
now, in the scenario of being in your home, personally, like, you know.
Wait, what would you just do? Did you just rack it?
Like, you know.
You racked?
No, mine always.
Okay.
Like, you know, I'm just.
There's no racking going
that's
on.
just my form of saying, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do if they're already in your home. But say we're on the street and someone's raising Cain.
But to go back to that a little bit, I think there's a bunch. There could be a sense of selfishness too that goes into not pulling that trigger, because now, to some people, that's going. If you take that life, that's going to weigh heavy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if you put that mindset on, and that keeps you from pulling the trigger, well, that selfish act to not carry that burden could cost your whole family, which 100%. Will then put an even heavier burden on you. But still,
I agree with that too. That can be a. So of course, back to soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
We are conditioned for stress. The only way to condition someone's mind to take a life is by taking life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who you are.
Well, same with hunting, right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
You just have to eventually.
And I've never lost that. Even to this day, there's always a slight anticipation of pow. And I always have that slight, okay, let me take a deep breath. Even raising out here, chickens. I mean, my goodness gracious. Chickens are not that much of a pet. Even people who keep chickens as a pet, every once in a while you get some that are genuinely affectionate and curious.
Say that to my wife. Every single one of them would be a pet.
I agree, I know. But even when it comes time to processing the chickens, when I first get started, I have that same anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
And not to sound heartless, but I've killed hundreds of chickens. Like, so you would think that I could just walk out there and... But every time I get ready to get started, I take a slight moment and I think internally, Lord, thank you for the ability to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I know where a lot of my food comes from, and I get to provide that food a lot of times in the least cost-effective way for me. Most cost-effective way to me. That was completely wrong.
I understood what you meant.
Yeah. I'm sure most people would have understood what I meant, but and a lot of society will, well, you're a coward if you take someone's life, and there are legitimate reasons to take someone's life.
I think you could still, on their side, for example, the school shooters.
Yeah, definitely cowards.
That right there, I completely agree with. So I guess you can play devil's advocate on both sides of the field, but I think that all just needs to be situation based at that point.
Well, I think there's many things that are situationally based. So let's say, go back to integrity. It's 1941, and I have 4 Jews hiding under my floorboards from the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear on the door. You go open the door, and a squad of SS soldiers come busting through, and they're screaming in German, and they're asking if you got any Jews in your house, and is it a lack of integrity for me to say no, or is it integrity for me to say yes?
Yeah.
Like, which one is it? Like, because when you go back to lying, oh, well, it's never okay to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Baloney. Like, I think in 99.999 to the smallest percentage, it's never okay to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, it would be a strong moral foundation to me for you to be able to look that man in the eyes and say, "9." No. 9. Like, 0 Jews in this house. Like, and prayerfully, they believe you and they would leave. But it would show great courage for you, 1, to already be hiding someone that needs to be hid. 2, for you to be able to take that chance of you and your entire family being wiped out with them. Now, of course, me personally, I would have sent my family I would have sent my family to another country so that they didn't have to deal with that. But that's a whole different thing.
Well, I think also going to traits of what makes a man. I think if you take out having your identity in Christ and going to worldly views, having an identity in general is very important. To have your identity, because I mean, I think that's the problem with America now is we lack identity.
Yep.
On an individual basis and on a nation.
Yeah.
Or national.
Yeah. Oh basis. Yeah. Well, I think we've gotten too deep into needing group identity. Well, I need to identify with Christians. Well, I don't identify with Christians. I identify with Christ. Because I don't want to look like every other Christian unless they look like Christ. Because it's okay for me to want to look like something else. Say, Paul, for instance, imitate me as I imitate Christ. Hey guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. We were actually interrupted a little bit by my 9-week-old bird dog. So I hope y'all enjoyed Jay Bird joining us. I hope he continues to join us in the future. Listen, if you're a man out there and you're struggling with something, you're having some issues, and you need someone to reach out to, don't be afraid to leave a comment on this video, subscribe to this channel, and look us up on Facebook. Look us up on TikTok, Instagram. We're on almost every platform. So give us a shout, leave us a comment, send us a message, and if we have the opportunity, we will reach out to you. We appreciate y'all. Get up, get moving. Don't be afraid to be a man.